Okay.
Welcome back to Mal and Nat Sister Chat podcast. Today we are going to be talking about, what was that?
Diary of a CEO's interview with Paul Brunson.
Yes,
Sorry.
we are going to talk about that.
The video's counting down 3, 2, and I'm like, Diary of a CEO.
I was like, welcome.
No.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we're going to talk about that video, which is on YouTube, and I am not going to be lame anymore. I'm going to link it below. Dang it!
I've been linking. I linked.
Oh, have you?
I linked that guy we talked about, emotional intelligence guy, below.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good.
So
that's good.
Yeah.
Okay. And if you were just listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or whatever, you can also watch us. There's a video on Spotify or on YouTube. We're on YouTube now. So they're Mal and Nat Sister Chat podcast on that's the name of it on YouTube, right?
Yeah. Let me make sure, but I'm pretty sure it might be Mal and Nat.
Okay.
Mal and Nat are sisters. No, I'm just kidding. Let me look.
You'll find us eventually. And then there's also Instagram page. So yeah,
I feel like I have to do like a different handle for everything. Yeah. So on YouTube, it's Mal and Nat podcast. That's the handle, but you can type in Mal and Nat Sister Chat podcast. That would come up.
We should probably link all of our socials below.
And I do, like in our videos, I link everything to everything, so it's...
But I don't on the podcast, so I will do it.
Yeah, that's the only place we're going to need it. And our Facebook and Instagram. I'm trying to get us on X, but for some reason it keeps booting me off, so I don't know what I'm doing.
What was the episode called? Do you remember?
So he interviewed a guy named Paul Brunson, who is like a relationships expert. He's a matchmaker, like professionally, which is kind of crazy. And
I didn't know that was a thing.
I didn't either, but their whole talk was about how people are moving more and more. We're full circling back to matchmaking because they're like, we tried to do it our own way and we all suck and everybody's relationships are horrible and please matchmake us. So
also,
yeah, like people are turning to matchmaking services now, which I think is crazy, but
that's funny.
But he did say on there, you need to watch, if you're watching this, you need to go and watch that interview because he talks about why matchmaking actually is really effective, and it kind of blows your mind a little bit. Like he's very statistically oriented, so everything is a stat, everything's a number, which I love people like that. So
yeah, well, I thought it was funny. He said he would interview people and basically try to get a picture of who they are, and then so like the person would tell them, and then he'd interview their ex and their everybody that knows them, and he's like, and then once you get that, then you actually understand who they are, because they'll tell you one thing but everyone around them will tell you another, and so once you get that picture, then I can match them up with somebody. Anyway, I thought that was funny.
That's so nuts. And he's like, how you think you're presenting out the world for good or ill is never what you think in your head. Like sometimes we think like, oh, everyone hates me, right? And they're like, no, they don't. Or yeah, they really do, and you think you're like awesome. And I just thought that was so fascinating. He's like, it rarely matches, and I was like, oh, that's really frightening. There are times when you're like, oh, we're good here, and I'm like, maybe they hate you. Yeah. So
yeah. Anyway, thought that was funny. Yeah. So what else is about it?
Okay, so the whole interview is about how to make relationships more effective, like your romantic relationships. And one of the things that he points out in the very beginning of the interview that I wrote down because I thought it was so interesting is that our romantic relationship is going to affect our health, our future, our children's health, our children's future, our family, like our immediate family, siblings, and parents, a little bit, because they'll be sad if you're sad and happy if you're happy. And you're bringing this new person into the clan or whatever, and then it affects future generations forever. So he's like, the person you choose to marry is kind of the most important decision you're going to make forever. And if you add on top of that, no pressure. If you add on top of that, like our religious beliefs, like it is the most important decision you'll ever make. And so this one really spoke to us because we were like, we agree. We agree that this is a big deal.
Yeah, so I thought it was interesting too. He was talking about, I think the parts that were interesting are things that I already believe in, because you're like, oh, hey, I've believed that my whole life. But like he was saying, if you, let's see. So he said, people are starting to wait until after they get a career and then they'll get married, they'll settle down and have kids. And like, And he's like, but he said he talked to two people on their deathbed like recently, and the number one thing they said was the relationships in their lives were they had more regrets there than in their career. They didn't even talk about their career. They didn't say one thing about it. And he was like, so in my mind, why aren't we starting younger? You know, if that's the number one thing that matters. And I just thought that was interesting because that's something that we believe in, you know.
Yeah.
So and it's not very popular right now. Like,
no,
people
it's
are
not
like,
popular at
it's so
all.
weird to get married young.
Yeah, well, and
But
as young as we did is like almost abusive. Like people are like, "You're in a cult, get out!" Yeah, and
it did
well,
make me think. Yeah, I got some opinions. Go ahead.
okay, well, we've talked about this on here before. We really don't have a good answer because we're like, well, if our own daughter came to us and said, "I'm 18 and I'm getting married," we'd be like, "No, you're not." Yeah,
Met a man in Rome, and I'm
getting married. I asked mom about that though. I said, how did you feel when I got married young? And what would you advise me to tell Scotty if she came to me and said, I'm 18
Oh,
and getting
yeah,
married? Because I was like,
yeah.
I honestly just don't know how I would handle that. And I'd feel like such a hypocrite. I was 19. And I'm like, but it does kind of freak me out to think of her getting married when she knows so little. Like, I'm just
I
like,
know.
oh, anyway, but my mom, she's just so wise. She's like, you
Yeah.
know, if my kid seems like their pattern has always been to head in a good direction, whether they mess up here and mess up here, whatever, but like the overall trajectory is just good and progressive.
Uh-huh.
And they're not in love with love because there's those personality types. She's like, then it doesn't freak me out. She's like, your pattern is to do practical, intelligent things up to this point. Obviously, you don't have a huge track record or a lot of experience because you're young.
Yeah.
But she's like, I knew you to be just like a person with their head on their shoulders, relatively. So if you say you're going to get married, then I trust that you somewhat know what you're doing. Like,
yeah,
you probably just found someone you really connect with. And I think there's nothing wrong with starting your life with someone and maturing through that too. She's like, if you were a total dingbat, I would have been really nervous. I was like, okay, like that's actually great advice because there's not really a set number. Like, okay, now I'm comfortable. Now you can start hunting. Your kids are going to do whatever they want anyway. So how do you promote, think about it, be careful with your decision, but at the same time, I trust that you're an intelligent person.
Yeah.
At 19. Like, holy cow, that's so young.
I did think it was funny in the podcast. He said that arranged marriages statistically end up lasting longer and more satisfaction within the marriage, like huge statistics wise, comparatively to like American marriages where we're just like, let's get married in Vegas in 2 weeks.
Right.
Anyway,
that's an interesting stat when you talk about that.
So I thought that was interesting, and his point was like, it takes a village, kind of thing. And basically the village is deciding for you. Like they're like, they take everything they know about you and everything they know about his family. And they're like, I think like the characteristics and everything is going to work out. And he's like, just statistically, it just makes more sense. And not that I want to like vouch for arranged marriages, but it did make me think like when I got married at 18. And I was like, now looking back, I'm like, oh my gosh, like what were my parents thinking?
I know. Anyway, what did they do? Yeah.
Well, I know, but looking back, I'm like, they knew Chancey before we even started dating. They knew his family. I knew his family. I knew like
it kind of was arranged in a way.
It was kind of like in a way it was kind of arranged.
It has similar elements to an arranged marriage, even though it wasn't at all arranged.
They definitely weren't pushing me like, get married now. But like the fact that I wanted to, and they were like, this is a really solid kid. They were like, yeah.
Okay,
it's good.
You make such a good point that like in LDS culture particularly, oh my gosh, that's such a good point. I was like, why are we so comfortable getting married so young? And it doesn't always work out. Our divorce rate is just that below, the rest of the world. It's really not
it's not
amazing.
Great.
No, it's not great.
Yeah.
But it is lower. And the marriages that do work do report a lot of satisfaction, not just like clinging on or whatever, like statistically we are lower in all the like areas you consider bad, but not by a ton. But anyway, when you know their family, when you know their siblings, when you've watched them go through high school, when you know their friend group, and when you know how they behave in the church, like do they show up? Do they keep their commitments? Do they serve others? Do they, if you like go to the temple, I was going to say temple worthy. That's why I did that. I didn't mean to like go to the temple. When you go,
Go to the temple.
Temple. Who cares? When you go to the temple, there are certain requirements you have to meet just to get in, and you can lie about them. But
you can lie, but it is a upfront. You know they're not doing drugs. You know they're not.
Well, you know that they're saying they're not.
They're saying they're not, yeah. And so like they've got at least that. It's kind of like a front, like okay, like already I already know you're clean from this and this and this, or you're saying you are, which might be even more scary to some people. But I don't know.
Sure, but what it says is either you're a complete lying narcissist or you're clean, right? Like it just kind of takes out that gray area. So and everyone has this like thing to aim for. So even if you fall short, you're aiming high, you know. So like there are a lot of arranged marriage elements in our church because you just know so much about the family and the people and stuff that when someone says, yeah, I'm marrying this kid, you're just like, yeah, I know a lot about him. I know way more about him than I do some Joe Schmo that you picked up in, you know, a random state, which totally happens too in our church. It's not like you have to marry within your town or whatever. I don't want to be walking away with ideas that we have like weird rules like that or something, but
I know.
But if you do typically find someone that the families know each other, you know a lot about each other because you've watched that family and how they interact in a church that requires so much commitment. You can see where their commitments lie, where their priorities lie, what their values are pretty easily.
Basically, you're in a close-knit group already in the church, and then if you're in a small town, then it's already another close-knit group, and so then it's just like you end up knowing a lot of things. But it's funny because me and Chancey will look back and like probably I would say at least the first 5 years of marriage, we were kind of in denial that like we just got lucky basically because like of finding a really good partner because we were like we're kind of like mature and like
we probably just knew what we were doing.
We kind of knew things, and now like we look back and we're like we were straight up lucky. Like I'm glad you're not a serial killer. Like what?
Yeah. I actually don't believe in that as I think there is a ton of animal instinct and if you're spiritual instinct that goes into that decision that we don't account for verbally and
it's true.
We can't put into statistics.
And the tricky part about using spirituality as your guide is it's so nuanced. So like there's people who will say
who abuse it.
You know, I prayed and I was told to marry this guy and there's accountability within the marriage. So, you know, he could be a really solid guy, but he just chose to follow into all his vices, which all of us can do. Right. And so, like, I guess he just married the wrong guy. Right. But I'm like, I don't know that he's the wrong guy. He just chose to give into all of his vices, which anyone can do. Yeah. Anyway, obviously, like this guy said in the podcast, there are huge red flags that he would avoid, but they're not very many. So he said the triad or something. What he's talking about, like narcissist, psychopath,
and the dark triad, yes. Narcissistic, psychopath, and selfishness. I think those fall under the other two.
Yeah, I can't remember.
I can't remember what the dark triad is.
You better look it up. But anyway, so he was saying like those are my red flags as far as like do not marry this person, but anything else, he's like honestly,
you can make it work.
He's like I don't care if they were incarcerated. I don't care if they were an addict. I don't care. Like if they are trying to progress, that is a good sign. And he said, he said another red flag was if they're trying to put you down when you're trying to progress. He's like, you don't want someone like that.
Oh, so very interesting.
If you're like, I'm trying to lose weight, and they're like, that's stupid, or like I'm trying to, and they're just trying to they're trying to drag you down. He's like, don't marry someone like that.
Right.
Anyway, but besides that, he's like, you're pretty, good to go. Just because life is so long, and you're going to be learning and helping each other along the way. Which I thought was really
interesting point. Well, what's funny about that is, hold on one second. Hey, don't knock on the door when I'm doing a podcast, okay? Oh, really? Okay, can you go tell Daddy? Pretty sure that's my tiny baby knocking on the door.
I think that sounds like a small fist.
Well, like it's just like knock knock, like the pattern was weird, and then I heard da 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 da.
Cute.
It's cute. He's like feed me and Mama. Mom. I'm gonna go make sure that he's actually being cared for.
Okay, we'll just edit this part out.
Okay.
I'm not freaking entertaining you people. Just kidding. I think I was done.
So the dark triad is psychopathy, narcissism and Machiavellism, which
Ooh,
is
that's a fun word.
it's really fun to say. Machiavellianism. It makes you feel really smart if you say it right. I said it wrong the first time.
Oh.
Machiavellianism is the name of a personality trait construct characterized by interpersonal manipulation. So they lack empathy. They're calculated, self-interested, no
So
morals.
he said something in there that was fascinating, and I wasn't sure if I agreed with it, but he said, once a narcissist, always a narcissist. Like, you do not want to be with someone like that. They will never change. Get out. And I was like, I
agree.
I don't really believe in the idea that people can't change, though.
I agree with you. I think that a narcissist either won't know how or won't want to change. Not that they can't. I hate when people say you can't change. There's no redemption for you. But I feel like I feel like narcissism is like thrown around the internet so much right now. And everyone says it. They're like, we all throw around narcissism, but you're going to run into 1 in 10 narcissists. I'm like, no, you're not. I don't think that statistic is true. I think that true, pure, 100% calculated, deviant narcissism is very rare. And so when people say like they're not going to change, I think that you're talking about people who are like serial killers or who are already in jail or who are like, not like everyone in jail is narcissists, but I'm just saying like, I really think they're way rarer even than like your traveling narcissism experts are saying. I'm like, come on. Like everybody who's ever been an ex to anybody thinks their ex is a narcissist. That's not true. They're just...
Well, and that's what he's saying. Is like some people are just a little selfish or like a little bit of an a-hole. It doesn't mean they're a narcissist.
Or maybe you are and you thought they were because you didn't get all of your needs met because you were spoiled. Like, how are you ever going to know if someone's a narcissist?
Yeah.
If you don't know yourself, which is no way you possibly could. So I'm like, we're all trying to come up with this definition when we don't even know how we appear out in the world or where we stand. So I think it's like when people difficult people and people who have a very low who have very little social skills or who don't read the room or who don't feel empathy or whatever. But true narcissism, I think it's way rarer than people say.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't know. They just make it sound like it's like a disease that's like chronic and you'll never heal. And I'm like, I just don't like that. I don't believe in that with my beliefs in God and the atonement and stuff. I'm like, I just don't believe in that.
Well, Dad explained it. Go ahead.
No, I'm done. Go ahead.
Dad explained it to me. Okay. Dad explained it to me one time because I had talked to him about this as a teenager, like, can people change or whatever? And he said, in our beliefs, there's nothing, not one thing, which is kind of mind-blowing, that you can do that will keep God from wanting you back. Like, he'll always want you. But once you cross a certain threshold, which has to be a very, very dark one, like we're talking like pure evil, he's like, you're the one who will turn your back on God. You're the one who won't want to come back and whose turnaround is going to be so big and such a long road that when we say you can't change, it's you. It's not him saying like you're not welcome back. And I'm not talking about people who deviate off the path even in a bit, because whenever you say that, people are like, right, my drug addict son. I'm like, I'm not talking about that. Like, that's to me is like life. That's part of our experiences. I'm talking about like pure evil, like like those
you're like
who
killing people,
children
and hurting children.
They're just soulless. I'm like, those kind of people, they're still God's children and he loves them. But I just think that what my dad meant was they're so far gone that if there's no changing, it's because of them and not because of God. So yes, it's true, but the theology that God would never want you back is never true.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's a lot people can do to kind of like sell their soul to the devil, basically. I've been reading Harry Potter, and I'm just such a Harry Potter geek. I love it.
I am so much.
Anyway,
I love it so much too. Why? I think it's like ingrained in our childhood. Yeah.
Well, we were. Yeah, it was coming out when I was like 11. Like I was like ready to go to Hogwarts. So I'm like, this is like, where's my letter?
I am basically a witch.
I'm pretty much Hermione. So I forgot what I was saying. Oh, yeah, but just, like, her whole breakdown of Voldemort's character of, like, he couldn't die because he had sold his soul, like, 7 times or whatever it was to, like, all these different things is just, like, really fascinating to me. I don't know why. I think because, not that, like, we're not magic or whatever, but, like, humans can do things to, like, basically give up pieces of your soul, and you're not coming back from that, not because God doesn't want you, but because you're just like, you're so far gone.
Because your soul's fragmented, so to come back, you got to go back to all the places you sold it, gather it up, and try and piece it together, and so I'm like, it's not impossible. And what I love too is in the Book of Mormon and in the Doctrine and Covenants and in the Bible, obviously, there are so many examples of people turning their lives around, from like murderers to adulterers to I don't even know, like what was Alma the Younger, like what they call him, the most vile of sinners, like to becoming God's servants and serving him for the rest of their lives, and becoming these humble, great people. And we see that now, like with these OnlyFans people who find Christianity, right, and turn their whole lives around. You've watched their whole countenance change and everything. Yeah. We see so many examples of miraculous change, and we read about it in scripture so often. And yet, as a society, we still want to push this idea that it's not possible. Like, people don't really change is kind of the narrative right now. I know. That's not true.
That's one of those. Yeah. That's freaking another reason I hate Elsa. But like one of the songs in Frozen is like, because people don't really change. And I'm like, yes, they do, troll. Dang it.
Yes, they do. Stone troll. Trying to indoctrinate my daughter. I don't like that.
It's because I've heard it so many times. I'm like, now I'm dissecting like the psychology of the movie and like breaking it down.
I actually do that with
you evil little troll.
Yeah, I think that when people are like, it's just a cartoon, they're the dumb ones. I'm like, hello, like everything that your child is watching, reading, listening to is going to influence them.
Well, and it's not like
right now.
It's not like somebody is just like sitting down with your kid and telling them a make-believe story off the top of their head, and it's innocent because it just came to them. Like these are adults that have sat down and engineered these stories to create something that is going to stick in their brains forever, and they're trying to push something because they all do. And
we do too. Anyway. We all have a motive. We just think we're on the good side. So I'm like, but everyone thinks they're the good guy. So I'm like, really, it's up to you to discern what is good and what isn't for your kids.
What? Your socks? I'm in the girls' room, so.
Oh, yeah. Get out of your room, child.
You don't need socks.
We need to do like a whole video compilation sometime of all our bad parenting. What do you want? You don't need socks. Get out of here. Go eat cereal. Watch a movie. Like just one after the other.
No, we really don't need one of those.
We don't. We don't need to do that. Remind ourselves. Guys, we only do this for 3 hours once a week, okay? We look like bad parents, but we're really focused on our kids most of the time.
We're super good.
So we tell ourselves.
Go out, please. Anyway, but yeah, there was something else I was going to say about that. I can't remember now, but
I just think I think the ones who are like, there's nothing in any cartoon ever are the people with no discernment really irritate me. I'm like, because it's so hard for me to see the world not through a lens of what's your angle, what you're trying to teach.
I know.
Even if you're not, even if your motive isn't that, you're teaching something.
Yeah.
So I just don't understand the like, nothing is being taught, no motives anywhere. I'm like, oh.
I do think that you can have kind of like a chip on your shoulder and be kind of annoying if you do that too much. Because like I know I do, and I know I annoy people.
Oh,
but
100%.
But yeah, it does. Yeah.
Well, we're just on the other side of that coin. We're irritated by no discernment. They're irritated by our seeing a ghost in it. What do they say? How they say that? Seeing a monster and everything. I don't know what that phrase is.
Yeah. There's like this trend lately in movies, I swear, of them using like iconic actors that are old now. They're like in their like, by old I mean like 60s, 70s.
Like your Tom Hanks kind of guys. Like
Tom Hanks, Eddie Murphy. There's like a million of them. Anyway. And they're starting to make movies where they're the star lead, but like the love interest, and I'm like, or like the dad, and I'm like, what is? And then they'll put like a stupid filter on their face, like we don't notice, and I'm like, but the thing is, like, people don't notice. I was watching this movie with some people, and like, I was like, I hate his face, I hate something about it, and I don't know what it is, and they're like, because it was Dennis Quaid, I love him with like everything, my whole soul, and I was like, what is wrong with his face?
They had like CGI'd him or Botox.
They had CGI'd his face, and like I could tell. And then they try to make him a love interest. And instead of getting a younger actor for when he was younger, because he was playing the life of JFK or something, instead of getting a younger actor, they had him do it with a filter and like kiss this younger. It was so cringy. I was
so
like,
weird. Yeah.
Oh, it drives me crazy. I'm like, hey, I don't understand. You're old now. Be someone else that's old.
Let it go.
It makes me crazy.
Like, they talk about this on the Diary of a CEO, but like embracing who you are and where you are is so attractive. Whether you're old, whether you're, somewhat annoying, whatever it is, if you understand who you are and accept it, you're going to be acceptable in most circles because it's attractive to be with someone who's not always looking for others to tell them what they are, who they are.
Exactly. That's what he said. And in the podcast he's like the people that did the best on those dating apps were the older generation because they weren't raised by social media, so they didn't even know to put a filter on or edit their life or make themselves sound better. They just were like, this is what it is. and they did better because it was so authentic and people are like, thank you for not lying, and I do think that's true of like people who are just kind of quirky and I don't know,
you're gonna own it. I think you're just naturally going to feel safer with authenticity too. Like someone who is willing to lie to the entire world, even a filter is a semblance of a lie, is definitely willing to lie to you when the chips are down, right? So it's like, and I'm not saying if you use a filter, you're a liar. But I just mean like it definitely is it's a little red flag. It's like, how honest are you? Are you willing to put yourself out there? Are you vulnerable? Are you accepting of who you are? There's a lot of things that go with that.
It means stuff. Yeah. I think we're just like, I just feel pretty with it. I'm like, that's fine. But at the same time, if you're trying, like what are you trying to do? Are you on a dating app to attract someone? Then authenticity is kind of important. Anyway, what do I know about freaking dating?
I just thought he said, right, we don't know what that's like.
This is what I would do. Yeah.
Dude, here's what I would do. I always am like, this is what I would do if I was ever single. I would like find a tiny little cottage that I didn't have to clean for 8 hours a day. And I would just like never date anyone ever and just get a job, make money, and like play with my kids. That would be my plan.
I would wear my ring, even if like Chancey was dead, because I'm like, I just don't think I want to do that again.
Nope.
And that makes it sound like I don't love my marriage, because I do. It's like the best thing in my life, but it's so hard. Like I'm like, you built this thing from like we were little kids when we got married, and you've built this thing forever, and I don't know. I just don't know if I want to do it.
And obviously, we have exactly. We have no clue what that'd be like. And the loneliness, everyone I've ever known who ends up single, the loneliness gets to you so bad. And what you say you would do and what you actually do in a situation like that are like so opposite. It's silly to even plan.
I know.
For whatever reason in my head, that's like my ideal if I had to be single, is to like be super independent. Just like I have my own money, my own space, my own life, and I don't need anybody for anything. And I could be friends, but I don't have to, show up for someone romantically. maybe I've got issues.
Interesting.
It just sounds so exhausting to do that twice, doesn't it? Like
romantically.
It does. I don't mean sexually. I just mean like in every essence of a romantic relationship. It's so exhausting that I'm like, in a good way when you're in it because you love them, so like that's worth it. But to start with someone you don't love, knowing that you're going into this, I don't know if I could do that, because I'm like, that's so much work for someone I don't love yet. You know what I'm saying?
Well, it makes it sound like, I don't know, people would always, I remember before I got married, I always heard people talk about how hard marriage is and like you have to work hard to keep it. And I was like, that's like weird. Why can't you just love each other?
You have a bad attitude.
Like just love. Anyway, but I think it's not something, I don't know. I guess I pictured it of like running a marathon of just like you're constantly tired trying to keep this
it's
like
not like
hamster wheel. It's not like that. It's more like you go through like waves of like, wow, like we're fighting a lot, and now we need therapy, and now we're doing good, and then we need this, and like, anyway, we've got to figure out this stage of life. We've got this many kids and this career, and it's just living with someone else and navigating all the crap that life throws at you is difficult, but it's also extremely rewarding when when you push through those times because you're like, wow, you're still here, even though like you saw me in my worst, like,
yes.
Like, why are you still here?
There's something really special about that. And it's, all that work shapes you, it shapes them. Like I'm not even kind of the same person I was when I, at 19. So I'm like, obviously it's totally, but my point is like, I'm in love with Corey. So all of that is worth it to me. I don't know if I could like start with someone and be like, just because you're hot, I want to like get to know you on this level. I'm like, no, I don't. Like, unless I already love you, I'm not committing to that amount of work with you. Like, that just sounds like, hell. I don't want to do that.
How do I put this? Yeah. It sounds like hell to me.
Yeah, anyway. And it sounds terrible, but it's kind of like someone who like loves their business. Like, well, yeah, I work 12-hour shifts and I sweat and I don't sleep and I live on caffeine and you're like, oh my gosh, that sounds like hell. But I love my business, so it's worth it.
Right. Yeah, you're exactly right. That's exactly
worth that to me. No one else is. So I'm like, I am not doing that for some rando. No, I don't want to.
Well, yeah, you're picturing though, like someone hot coming up and being like, let's do this. And you're like, no.
That like makes me want to punch someone in the face. Not that anyone would anyway.
Well, I'm just saying, like,
like
if you were to be single midlife, that's like probably not what's gonna happen. It's probably gonna be like you get to know them first. Like you're not just walking around like, oh, he's hot, and let's.
I love when girls are like, I just get hit on so much. It's such a burden. I'm like, all you have is it's such a burden to get hit on. I'm like, if that really bothered you, I could let you borrow my 5 kids. You take them anywhere, no one's hitting on you.
You're like, I've got some really ugly clothes too that'll work.
Surround yourself with right when they like dress like in the most feminine, appealing way possible, and then they're like. And obviously dress to your best, but I just think it's such a flex when women are like, I hate getting hit on. I'm like, no, you don't. You love talking about how you hate getting hit on. That's such a lie. You love telling everyone how much hotter you are than them. I'm like,
it's just kind of a. Here's the thing: it's like they might actually dislike creepy men hitting on them, but like talking about it is kind of embarrassing. Like I'm like,
it's
don't
weird. Don't talk about it. Never talk about it. Okay.
Like that girl that did like the look count or whatever, like the old guy looking at her. She's like, look count. There's like 20 looks, but she was in line ahead of him. I was like, I 100% guarantee that guy's looking at you 20 times because he's like, stop recording me, and A, like get out of the freaking way. Like I need to check out my food. Like she was just like, look count. I'm so hot.
Oh I can't go anywhere without being stared at. So hard to be mean.
I'm like, who counts that? That's so embarrassing.
So weird. And I'm like, it's not necessarily sexual. Like if I see a beautiful woman somewhere, I'm staring at her.
I do look counts too. Yeah, exactly.
Right. I'm like, you're like a piece of art. You're so pretty. I just want to look at you. Same with men. I'm like, if you're just pretty, I just want to look at you like I would anything that's pretty. It's not sexual. So I don't, maybe for some creepy guy, I don't know. Anyway, I just think like, maybe we live in like small towns, so we don't understand like being in a city, you feel like prey or something. But I'm like, I just think maybe you could like wear a few more layers and still look pretty and don't worry about it.
I think they think too much of themselves. I think that they think that when everyone is looking at them, that means they're getting hit
something.
Like,
I'm like, holy cow, you made some.
I don't think it always means that.
Self-validation. Yeah. It's necessary in your life. Don't even look. Like, who cares who's looking at you?
Right, exactly.
Anyway, we digress. So,
well, I was going to say, I wanted to talk about what he talked about with like the body shape or whatever. I thought that was really fascinating.
That was really interesting. Kate, but tell us.
So he said that there's like a 70-30 rule, basically, and not rule, but like, statistically, men tend to, desire a woman who's, I don't know if the numbers are right. Waist is 30%.
Yeah, like 70-30, I think is what he said.
I don't know what that means. Does that mean their hips are 70 and their waist is 30? Or does that mean their waist is 70%? I don't get it.
So your waist is, I think it's supposed to be that your waist is 30% is 30% smaller than your hips. So maybe that's crazy. Maybe that's
and they love it.
And that's what men are into. So ladies, stitch those waists.
Walk away with that. Yeah. Everyone's like,
let me look up what
discouraged and confused.
I know he said 70-30, but I don't actually know what that means.
I didn't really get it. Yeah, I know. But I didn't understand what he was saying. But he was just saying that, like, back in the caveman days, like, men literally looked at women to procreate with them. Like, that was it. Like, we're gonna have babies and let's do this.
Yes.
And so then that he said that carried on clear until like the 1800s, which was crazy. And then it turned more into like friendship relationships did, as far as like your spouse goes, and you're like, oh, I actually kind of am friends with them. And nowadays it's so much pressure to be everything with your spouse. You want to be a running partner, and you want him to be your therapist, and you want him to be your co-CEO, and you want him to be your best friend and your romantic partner. And like, I just listed all these things. And then he's like, and 80% of couples are dissatisfied with their marriages because of that. Like, they're just like, you're not this and this and this, like this girl on Instagram's husband is. And like, anyway, I just was like,
get off social media, step one.
Yes. Anyway, I just thought it was really interesting how much pressure we're putting on each other nowadays. And not that, you can't expect things of your spouse, because I think with modern technology and stuff, we kind of do have less to worry about. We're not like, if you don't go out and hunt, we're all going to die. Or, if mom doesn't sew my clothes, we'll be cold. Like, it's not like that. Yeah. So, I think we do have more time, and you can't expect things of your spouse, but at the same time, kind of being patient with the humanity it's okay, that they haven't got it all figured out right now. And anyway.
He said as soon as someone gives up or shows a lack of effort, that's a big predictor of divorce. And I was just thinking about like what works in a marriage and what doesn't. And I think the times that Corey and I get especially irritated with each other is when the other is perceiving a lack of effort. So it's not necessarily like, you didn't make me a sandwich like I expected, it's more like I came home from work, I've been working all day, and it kind of looks like you're not doing anything. He's never said that to me, but I'm just saying, like,
example.
Yeah, as an example.
Corey's so sweet. He would never do.
He's very sweet, but or vice versa or whatever. So I think that the expectations versus reality are going to be a constant kerfuffle in marriage, because what you think you're seeing and perceiving is probably not necessarily true, which is why like communication is key,
Yeah, I agree. Did you figure out the math on that waist ratio?
He just says you're considered to be optimal for fertilization, but I don't understand what 70-30 means. He does say, okay, so it straight up says 70-30 ratio with your waist and hips is considered the perfect figure. And what he qualified in his podcast is like, you don't need to like go out and get a Brazilian butt job to like make you have like this perfect. He said it ranges obviously, and taste ranges obviously, but like statistically that's like the goal. And then if you're like over here a little bit on this side, or your taste runs this way, that's normal. It's just like that's kind of the middle ground. And so what I was thinking about is like, women really obsess over like, oh my gosh, my butt isn't big enough, or my butt's too big, or my arms are too squishy, or my boobs aren't bigger. Like I have I don't know, like I weigh this much. And really at the end of the day, what men are attracted to is health. So like a stomach that isn't fat is really like what they're attracted to. And I'm not saying like if you have a fat stomach you're not attractive, but if you're obsessing about like these weird things on your body, I think what's very attractive to men and women is someone who cares for their body. Like, are you eating healthy? Are you able to move around? Are you able to help me raise children? I don't care if you are having kids or aren't. Biologically, I think that's what we're wired to think about. It's like, if you can't get off the couch, you're not going to be able to help me raise children. You know what I mean? So
well, there was like, there's all these videos of women who will, they'll be like, the guy said I just wasn't his type, and they'll have pictures or videos of them being like, obese, and then they'll lose a crap ton of weight and then get really fit, and they're like, and now he's interested, and now he's interested, and like, honestly, the comments were kind of calling him out though. They were like, it's attractive to see somebody working hard and like achieving a goal that difficult, like it's normal to be attracted to that, it's not like they're creepy or weird or shallow. I mean, there is something to like, if they're like your husband and they're like, yeah, you're too big for me.
Oh my gosh, different. There's so much to it. We never should like make someone feel like less valuable because of their weight. That's horrible. I just think like when people are like, they're not attractive to me, that makes them shallow. I'm like, it really is just animalistic. It's can we procreate together, at the end of the day.
Well, and women like always get beat up on men, but I'm like, if you're man was obese and he got like shredded abs, you wouldn't be like, that's unattractive. Like, you'd be like,
No.
yeah, like, awesome, you know.
Yeah.
But if they're your husband, you love them either
You
way, but you're
either way.
just like, yeah, that's awesome that you did
Yeah.
that, you know. I'm proud of you for achieving
It's
that
the
goal.
same thing if they like read 12 self-help books and just became really good at listening or something. I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah,
You just be
yeah.
like, wow, like that's really nice.
Like,
I
thank you
don't
for doing, yeah,
right.
good for you.
You're
Yeah,
improving. That's attractive. I
yeah,
still love you, but that's
yeah.
just that adds to your attraction. So,
Uh-huh.
and I do think we live in a society where thin and beautiful people are more powerful, and so and I actually do think that's sad because there is a lot to
Yeah.
contribute, no matter what your like body size is or whatever. But I think that's the reality. Like whether you can either fight that or you can embrace that that's the reality and be okay with people judging you or figure out a way to get healthy, you know. And obviously there's way more considerations than just like your power in society, but I'm just saying
Yeah.
like that is the truth of it. I do think too it sucks because you'll see people who are overweight and the automatic assumption by many people is like, oh, lazy, infertile, whatever, like they can't do A, B, and C. But I'm like, so in our society now, it's really possible to be an extremely hardworking, dedicated, classy person who's addicted to food because it's so accessible and so easy to consume dense calories.
Yeah.
That you can be all these cool things and obese. And so that's sucky too, because there was a time when to get that big, you had to just lay around and do nothing because your availability of food was like bread and cheese and meats, right?
Yeah.
So you had to sit. Nowadays, it's not the case. It's not the case, and food addiction is very real and something that we don't really even talk about too much. It's just kind of like get up and exercise and stuff, which is good. But food addiction is a real addiction, and I think that there's a lot of people struggling with that, and then they get discouraged by how their body looks, then they stop working out. So I'm like, I guess my point is like, all this is true, but you don't know what it's like to be addicted to food if you're not, you know? I'm like, that would be a very deep, dark place to be.
Yeah, well, and back to relationships too, like it kind of makes your marriage more beautiful if you're willing to put up with your spouse when they are going through something like an addiction or, you know, like it really is a beautiful thing when you can be there for them when they are like at their ugliest point. Like, I don't mean physically, I just mean like ugliest, like characteristics or anything that comes out that's ugly, because there's just a lot of things that come out in marriage that are ugly.
You can be beautiful on the outside and hideous on the inside.
Oh yeah. Anyway, well, and when you go through stuff and you're like, oh, I didn't know you would react that way in this scenario, that's really unattractive. Anyway, and yet you're still there. Like there's something so beautiful about that, and lifting each other up and being like, you are at your worst right now, but I'm going to be here and we're going to just do this, and I'm not going anywhere. Like I love that, and I think that is not, you know, promoted enough in our society. It's more like, I agree with you. You're not giving my needs and I'm leaving, and so it's like, anyway.
What's the thing right now? Like, I just fell out of love with him, or I can't remember what the like phrase is right now, but I'm like, so you stopped working towards falling in love with each other then, which is maybe
it's sad.
Maybe you had reasons to stop working, but at the end of the day, you stopped aiming to that because being in love with your spouse isn't something that you just feel naturally. You're either working towards it or you're digressing. There's no like just staying neutral.
Yeah, so that was one of the things he said, which was interesting because that's like a business, back to your business analogy, which is funny because neither of us are entrepreneurs, but like, but yeah, like if you're not, yeah, we are. Anyway, but like, if you're growing, I mean, if you're either growing or you're dying, basically, you're not just like doing nothing.
You want to know what one of my pet peeves is in the whole world?
Yeah.
People who own a nothing business from their basement and call themselves a CEO.
I know. When they do the pyramid scheme ones, I can't stand that either. They're like,
oh my gosh. I
work for myself.
doTERRA. I'm like, you're not CEO. Stop it.
Like, you are, you mastermind. Tell me how you started this cult. Just kidding. Just kidding.
It's cult. Kidding. Okay, doTERRA. We actually use your products, but
I know. Anyway, okay, but I wanted to say something on the women overthinking, like having the perfect body and stuff. Like, I was thinking about this. Moms are especially, I see a lot of moms that are like, honestly, overall beautiful women, really cute. Like they have like one roll of fat on their stomach because they've had 5 kids, and they're like, I am Dobby the house elf. I'm wearing a pillowcase, and I'm wearing a pillowcase the rest of my life. No one look at me. And it's beige, and it's like that. And I'm like, okay, men are so simple. Like you literally cinch your waist in. Everyone has a waist. Everyone has a face. So I'm like, put a little bit of makeup on, a little bit like mascara and lip gloss. Cinch in your waist and like put on deodorant. And seriously, he's gonna be like,
waist, you mean like wear something that's actually
put a rope around the pillowcase. Yeah.
Like Ariel from
Anyway, and I just think like I get really into beauty. I love, like we always texting each other stuff, like little hacks that you can do. And like, and if I, file my nails this way, then I can, and anyway, we get really like OCD about dumb things that guys are not going to notice or care about.
So much money on stuff. And then they're like, we're not doing it for the men, we're doing it for ourselves. And I'm like, there's some truth to that, but if men didn't exist at all, you wouldn't do half of this crap. Like, kind of.
So I just think that like a lot of women are like, well, I can't, I'm just not what I was before because I've had kids. And I'm like, men are so simple. Like seriously, like curl your hair and like emphasize your waist. They're gonna think you look so hot. Like they
look
just
like you care about yourself. That's really what matters. And it's the same with a man. Like when we're attracted to men, it's not the like frumpy, sad, I don't even care what I wear guy who just woke up and rolled out of bed. Like, ugh. You're just like, but it doesn't matter if he's like got the worst body ever. If he does his hair or, shines his bald head, I don't care. Like, and wears nice clothes that fit him nicely and just like holds his shoulders back and is kind to people. He's outward. He's not always worried about what people think about him. Like, seriously, they say men are simple. I honestly think there's a group of really good women who are simple too. Like, just be a good guy and we don't care what you look like. Like,
I think so too.
Yeah.
I think I think a lot of women are like that. Like I think guys overthink it in a way. I think when guys overthink it is physical fitness. Like so we overthink
because there are dumb women who are like, if you're not 6'5",
but I mean at the same time it's kind of like a fantasy preference. It's not even like they really want it. Like he was in the podcast, he was asking his friend who is single what she wanted in a man, and then he was gonna look it up in this website that would tell you the statistic of you actually achieving that. So she was like, I want him 6'2", making $100,000. He's white, and what was the other one? I can't remember what the other one was, but it was hilarious.
Stipulated white. I don't know why that's funny.
Well, he asked her. He said, what race? And be honest. And she's like, well, white. And then he's like, get out, because he's black. Anyway, he was like, you're just kidding. But anyway,
get out right
which
now.
Which is funny because I'm like, I didn't know that people like
cared about race.
That I don't know why.
Well, I just like no, that's too. I can't say that. I was gonna say if someone's gonna pick between any race, I would think women would pick black men. They're so dreamy. Anyway, we're choosing white men, huh? Okay.
You're actually choosing. No, just kidding. No, there are attractive white men. Obviously, my husband is white. He's beautiful.
He's very hot. I'm just saying, like, it's just funny when people are like, oh, so racist. I'm like, I'm pretty sure that like. In women's preference for like a protective big man and all the things they like in men, like black men hit every single mark. They're just like they're just beautiful. And obviously they're not all like tall and big, but I'm just saying like I don't know. I think their skin's beautiful. I just think they're beautiful. They're my favorite like race of men. I
think they're beautiful too.
Yeah. What's your favorite?
Anyway,
do you like white men more or
I don't want to say that.
Asians? What do you like, Mal?
I like as far as like just looking at beauty.
Yeah, I'm not saying like, if my husband was black, I'd love him more. I just think like we all have like a race and like, gosh, they're so beautiful. I just always thought black men were.
I think Latino men are really pretty than black.
You and Coley, you're Latinos. She's like all.
There's some really pretty ones. Anyway, so but what were we talking about? So
I can't answer that. Yes, you can.
I'm like, I couldn't possibly. Okay, black.
Okay, fine. I really like Latinos now.
No, just as far as like aesthetic beauty and
exactly. And like you said, you're like, what you think of as beautiful isn't necessarily. It's like really bad. It's not what you marry, but that doesn't mean you don't find them beautiful. Because Corey is like exceptionally handsome guy, but he's like,
it's
that's
how I feel.
Yeah, exactly. Chancey's very good looking.
I'm very attracted to my husband,
Yes. But I actually asked Corey too, like, what do you think the most beautiful race is on the earth? He's not like short white girls with dark hair, like, you know what I mean? Like he's like it's like Indian women or something. Like I'm like, there's just some
There's
races
some that
that
are
for
just
whatever
really
reason
pretty.
you're just so attracted to. Yeah.
Anyway, so this girl was saying like, I want a white guy, 6'2", whatever, and he like puts it in the computer, and it comes out with like 0.004% chance of finding this guy. It's so funny. I don't know why, because I think my point is like, maybe men have this like, if you just ask them like, if you could just pick whatever, what do you prefer? They might be like, perfect waist, perfect boobs, perfect butt, but really they're just like not that picky. They're just kind of like throwing stuff out there, like I think some are really picky, but they're the single ones. So anyway,
exactly. And the weird ones. I think among men and women, when you're just looking for a mate, you want a good person who's taking care of themselves and treats you nice. That's like it. And then, because it's like you said, if they don't fall in the dark triad, you can make anything work. And what's interesting about that is that our prophet said that several years ago, like he's since passed, but you can make any marriage work with basically any person if you're both willing to work and follow God. It's something like that, and he got so much crap for it. Like people were like, oh yeah, well what about my marriage, yeah.
Oh, you're cutting out. I cannot hear you any longer. Come back. We always have to have one technical difficulty, or this wouldn't be interesting. So we'll just wait here in silence. Let me just text it. Want to hear my Moaning Myrtle impersonation? Thought you might. Alright. No, let's see. Hey, if you've died on there, you're welcome to share my toilet. Okay, what else? Dobby, sir. Dobby the house elf. All right, well, we're gonna just end it here. So I think Natalie's phone might have died or something. I don't know what happened. So we're gonna go ahead and end the podcast here, which is unfortunate because we had much more to discuss. So yeah, thanks for listening. As always, you can leave a comment below. If you disagree with us, leave a comment. Let me know. We'll have a little lengthy discussion in the comments, maybe. Just keep it respectful. If you would, that would be respectful of you. The class rules. Keep it respectful. All right, I'm going to go now. So thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the flip side, probably.